Guy, look, the Cowboys slapped a franchise tag on George Pickens and haven't locked him up on a long-term deal, and the Cowboys executive VP Stephen Jones just came out and said no team has even called about him. And honestly, that's the least surprising part of this whole situation. The real story is his agent, David Mulugheta, and I'm hearing other NFL owners are low-key tired of how this man operates. I've been watching this situation closely, and I got thoughts. Plus, I pulled up the Cowboys' full top 30 draft visit list, and guys, the pattern of who they brought in basically tells you what they're doing at pick 20. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. All right, so let's get into this George Pickens situation because I feel like people are sleeping on how complicated this really is. You know, an insider told me that teams around the league are pretty much fed up with David Mulugheta and his tactics. Like, they're not just frustrated. I'm talking about owners sitting in rooms saying they are tired of this man taking them to the woodshed. And I get it, right? As a business move, David is always focused on one thing. How do I secure the biggest bag possible for my client? Because look, the NFL stands for not for long, and that's just the reality of the situation. These guys got a small window, and David knows that better than anybody. But here's what's interesting to me. It's a two-way street, right? You got to be able to pick up the phone and have the conversation. And that's what makes this whole Pickens thing so wild to me. Stephen Jones literally went on record and said, no team has called with interest in George Pickens. No one. Now, I don't know if I fully believe that, honestly, because think about it. There should be like 15 to 20 teams that would at least be curious, right? But the way Stephen Jones always stretches his words out, always trying to convince us that what he's doing is the right and proper thing, I've noticed that pattern. And when I hear him talk like that, I always wonder what's really going on behind the scenes. Now look, I want to be fair here. If George Pickens is truly as advertised, a legitimate #1 wide receiver, there will be organizations willing to overlook a few things. I mean, think about it. People overlook all kinds of stuff when someone brings elite value to the table. And the same thing applies in football. If you had to choose between an on-time Jalen Tolbert versus an on-time Jalen Brooks versus a late George Pickens, pick your poison. I know a lot of people would say, give me that late-to-meeting George Pickens all day, right? And there are organizations out there that would protect and cover a player like that because they understand the value they bring. They don't want to leak stuff to the media. They don't want the player disgruntled. They keep it in-house. But here's where the Cowboys specifically get weird about it. You know, some people feel like the Cowboys would rather have their name in the headlines, whether it's positive or negative, than actually protect their assets. Like instead of quietly keeping George Pickens' late meeting situation in-house and protecting someone they know is going to benefit them down the road, it gets out, and now is part of the whole conversation around his value and his contract. That's not how you handle a guy you're trying to re-sign, you know what I'm saying? And speaking of re-signing, look, George Pickens is 25 years old and coming up on a new deal. CeeDee Lamb is up next year for a new deal too, because that deal he signed was 3 years ago. So the Cowboys are sitting here staring down the barrel of potentially having to re-sign 2 elite young receivers, both under 26, and they haven't even had a real sit-down yet. At least not one that David Mulugheta and Jerry Jones or Stephen Jones have acknowledged. So right now, honestly, everything is speculation until they actually get in the room together. Now, the market for Pickens is a real conversation. I mean, Kirk Cousins is the second highest paid quarterback of all time. That's just how this era works. Quarterbacks always get first to the first. Brad Johnson got a ring, Nick Foles got a ring, Trent Dilfer got a ring. 30 years from now, people remember them over the other 52 guys on the roster. That's just how it goes. And that same mentality trickles down. Whoever gets the biggest deal sets the floor for everybody else. Right now, the last comparable deal at Pickens' caliber of numbers was CD, and that deal is 3 years old. So the floor is going to be at least where CD's getting paid right now. Guaranteed money and all of that. And the agent is going to push for every penny of it. And I'll tell you what, David Mulugheta is not going to advise his client to go out there on a franchise tag and risk everything. Think about it. If Pickens is playing under that $28 million tag and he catches a ball across the middle, gets plastered, and can't play again, that's a disaster. So David is going to do what any smart agent does. Protect his guy, make sure that knee is feeling some type of way all season if that's what it takes, and still get that guaranteed money. That's just a game. I'm not saying it's right, but that's exactly what's going to happen if they don't get a long-term deal done. enough talking Pickens. Now, let's shift gears to tracking these Cowboys' top 30 draft visits. And guys, the picture is pretty clear. They brought in 7 safeties and cornerbacks, 7, and then a few linebackers, Sonny Styles, Josiah Trotter, Anthony Hill Jr., small group. A few edge guys. They brought in Eli Stowers as a hybrid type, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, and the smallest group by far, wide receivers and tight ends on offense. So if I'm a betting man, and I mean this sincerely, the Cowboys are drafting a defensive back in the first round on April 23rd. You can book it. That's where the attention is. That's where the visits are. That's where the energy is pointing. Now, here's where it gets interesting. And I know a lot of Cowboys fans are not going to love this. Keldrick Falk keeps coming up. Like this name will not go away. And look, I've been trying to dodge it for a minute, I'll be honest with you. But when the Cowboys lock their vision in on somebody, you cannot turn them away. They have focal vision. And somebody within the Cowboys organization genuinely trusts this kid. There is smoke around Keldrick Falk in the Cowboys realm, and I can't sit here and say it's not real when I keep seeing it come up over and over again. He might just be a Cowboy by April 23rd. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. But I said the same thing about LVE 2 days before that draft when I got information saying if that physical comes back clean, they're drafting him. And lo and behold, they rushed up there and took him. That's just how the Cowboys operate when they lock in. And one more thing before I wrap this up. You know what else I noticed from those top 30 visits? They brought in Akeem Messidor and Jamad McCoy too, right? And a lot of people think it's McCoy first, then Messidor. My thing on Messidor is this. You don't have to use your 20th pick straight up on him if that's your guy. Trade back. Play that game. Don't burn a premium pick when you got options. That's just smart football. Look, at the end of the day, this Cowboys offseason has more moving parts than people realize. The George Pickens contract situation is not resolved. The David Mulugheta dynamic is real and it's complicated. The draft is 9 days away, and that first-round pick at 20 is pointing hard toward the defensive side of the ball. I've been watching this team for a long time, and I'll tell you, the next 2 weeks are going to tell us a whole lot about where this franchise is really trying to go. Stay locked in, guys. It's about to get real interesting.